Hi there. Nice to meet you. My name is Ray Walsh. I'm the CEO of Barmetrix. And so in this video, I want to give you an overview of Barmetrix. So I'm looking forward to meeting you, but I want to make sure that our call and our conversation is as productive as possible. And so that you get as much information and I can learn as much about you as possible. So the reason I want to give you this precursor video is so that you get to learn and get a lot more context about Barmetrix, the company, the history, who I am, and then also learn more about the details and the operations of the business, right? So, and then when we talk, if you choose to talk after having listened to me for the next 15, 20 minutes, then we can learn more about you and your background and talk more about the ongoing Barmetrix opportunity, right? And whether it's a good fit for you or not. Okay. So first things I like to do is to go broad, and you'll see here in the back, and I do have the Barmetrix website on view as well. Reason is there'll be some parts I'm going to refer to, right? Just some of the pictures and some of the details might be helpful when I'm taking you through the day in the life. But first up, a little bit of the history. So Barmetrix, we've been around 26 years. We started in Sydney, Australia, back in 99. And we were servicing bars and restaurants in the Sydney area. Our client base, who we service, are bars, restaurants, hotels, nightclubs, golf clubs, country clubs, sometimes liquor stores, but mostly on the retail side, mostly on the restaurant side. So any business that's doing usually we say a minimum of about $6,000 to $7,000 in beverage sales. And when I talk about beverage, I'm talking about primarily liquor, beer, and wine. Okay. We do food as well, but I'll go more into food, but the vast majority of our business is around the beverage, just because it's far easier to execute, much easier to scale. Kitchens and chefs are a very different beast, right? So most of the business is focused around beverage, which there is a huge opportunity, huge problem around the beverage side and managing bars and making sure they are optimizing their bar program. So I talked about our client base is mostly bars, restaurants, hotels, etc. Our real niche are those independent restaurant groups, right? Those restaurant groups that are not the chains, but those restaurant groups that maybe they vary in size from 2 venues to 10 venues, right? And they're within a local geographical area. And they could be all different types of concepts: wine bar, tequila bar, steakhouse, sports bar, whatever it is. And you'll never know that they're actually part of the same group, but they are. And they might have multiple different owners, but they're our niche, they're our specialty. That's the type of group that really helps us scale. It's a recurring revenue model, so we work with them either weekly or every 2 weeks. Some cases monthly, but usually in the US market, mostly weekly or every 2 weeks. So that's our sort of our bread and butter. So as I said, we've been around 26 years. We have currently about 36 offices as of this video. Hopefully a few more coming on soon. We just opened up in Vegas, just opened up in New York. But currently, as of this video, we've got 36 offices spread out around in 7 different countries. But as I said, most of our focus is within the US market. That's where the biggest opportunity is. So what is the opportunity? Why do we exist? What's the big problem that we're solving? Well, it is maybe not a very well-known fact, but we have seen it for 20 years because we've been doing it for so long. And I see the data and the reporting coming across my desk. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. We have a corporate office in Washington, D.C. So we're servicing D.C. and the Northern Virginia area. And so I see the reports coming across my desk every day, especially for new clients. And consistently, nearly every new client that we work with is losing at least 20% of their beverage inventory every week. And it always blows my mind that it's so consistent. But when you think about it, like, it's a retail business, but it's a real difficult retail business. When you think about, the environment that the bartender works in or a server works in, dark lighting, so low lighting, music blaring, drunk customers, you're serving partial product, right? Meaning it arrives in kegs or arrives in bottles, and then you are having to portion it out on the fly, right? And the US certainly is a little bit more traditional in that regard, that they don't like instruments. They don't like, customers don't like their product being interfered with technology, right? They like it, pour me a drink. And so a lot of that, because of the environment, because of sometimes lack of training, lack of processes, equipment issues, just training issues, just staff not able to pour properly, or maybe staff looking after guests more than what they should be, all leads itself to big problems. And that big problem is usually 20%, 20 plus percent. In the retail world, usually the accepted amount is 2 to 3%, right? Because there's always going to be some loss. So what we focus on with Barmetrix is that we take a client, and if they're losing 20 plus percent, our focus is on driving them from 20 plus percent down to less than 5%. If they get below less than 5%, they're going to be in one of the top 1% of operators in the country. And the cost of our service would be paid for multiple times over. So that's what they're buying. They're buying a return on investment, right? They don't really care about inventory. They don't care about software or tools. Bar owners, restaurant operators are focused on making more money. And how do we do that? So we're a consultancy-based business primarily. We do inventory so that we can collect the data, so that we can analyze it, and so that then we can coach our clients on, right? So it's coaching and consulting, but we have to collect the data, and which means, and the data we're collecting is, we're doing the inventory counts. We're collecting all the purchase data. We're collecting all the sales information from the point of sale. We're weighing every product that's there. So our equipment, give you an example of types of equipment. So we have our own proprietary software, and we are sending people in there every week. So it's a combination of software, hardware, and people, right? We're not selling in software like a lot of systems or software products would do, right? They would sell in the software and the hardware, let the client do it. My background is in technology. Be great just to sell in software, but it doesn't work for the most part, especially for these independents. They don't have the time. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the discipline to really do it properly. If you don't do it properly, then you get shitty data. If you get shitty data, then you can't use the metrics to drive results. And we are all about results. We're all about return on investment. So if they're losing 20%, we drop that down to less than 5%. That drops their cost of goods, right? Every point you take off the cost of goods goes straight to the bottom line. So we're looking for at least a 3x return on investment. Most of our clients that we're looking at 3 to 7 or 8 return on investment. Quite a range, but that's because there's quite a range in the types of clients that we're dealing with. Some of them have huge problems when we start. Some of them have smaller problems. Some of them high volume, right? And so a higher volume means more cash that we can recover back to the bottom line, which means there's a higher return on investment. So from a franchise level, that's what we're focused on, is because it's not software, our franchisees are on the ground in each of these cities and locations. They are going in early on. It's them by themselves usually are going to do the work. They're going to collect the data. They're going to analyze the data, and they are consulting with the client, right? They're going to perform the full service. Over time, then they build a team. They hire part-time people to analyze, to collect the data. Then they'll hire account managers that are going to manage the relationships, take over a portfolio of clients, etc. But you start off small. You start off getting your first client. You're going to consult that client. You're going to do an amazing job creating value, providing return on investment. Average pricing for what we as I said, we visit our client once every week or every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. And each visit we charge a set fee. The price of that is totally dependent on how long it takes us to do the job, right? So when we quote a job, we're going to walk into a venue and we're going to say, is this is, how much stock do they have? How many storage locations? How many individual bars do they have? And then we're going to give them, say, okay, this is going to take us X amount of hours. and we're going to charge based off of that pricing. Okay. Then it's recurring, right? We have clients going back 25 years to when we started in Australia, are still with us to this day, been paying us week over week. I'm in the DC area. Most of our clients here have been with us probably 10 or 15 years, right? Once they experience the service, and even when we fix the problems, you're not going to be able to replace it. You can buy an internal system, but it won't reproduce what we can do, right? Because ultimately they're going to have to allocate resources and cost of buying a system, to training people of their own staff to do it. They're going to need to become specialists on it if they're going to get good data. And it takes us a number of months to train up staff to do this properly. They're able to manage multiple accounts, right? You can do one account, probably with about a month of training. But that's even with us from head office really dialing in and helping you get off the ground. So it takes quite a bit of time to get all that together. So I want to go through a list of frequently asked questions that I get, having gone through many of these conversations and calls with new potential franchisees for Barmetrix. So a couple of things I do want to cover, and which are really important because they can be showstoppers for certain people, right? And for us, this is a recruitment game. This is not a sales game, right? So it's where the franchisee prospect and the franchisor need to come together in the middle, where it's a mutual benefit. Because for us, we need to make sure that the franchisee is going to be a success. Otherwise, it's going to be a lose-lose for everybody, right? And we only really make money out of our business is if the franchisee is a success and is paying royalties back into the business. If they're not a success, then obviously there's no royalties, and so there's no, and the franchisee is not making any money, nobody wins, right? So it really is a more to finding the right balance, the right fit for the franchisee or for the prospect, for the potential franchisee, i.e. you, and for me, right? Do I think you can be a good fit? And do you think this is a business that you would enjoy, right? Doing for the next 20 years. Okay. So it's really important that you know everything up front, regardless of which franchise you are looking at, right? You need to make sure that, and your coach will be really helpful with this, but that you really know what you're getting yourself into. What does the business really look like? Does it match your skill set? Does it match your strengths? Does it match your personality, right? Because this has got to give you energy and drive. Otherwise, it's going to be too difficult. So common things that where people have gotten stuck in our type of business, right? So this is an owner-operator model, right? It's the way it works is at the beginning, it's going to be you, right? Because your biggest expense in most businesses is going to be labor. So at the beginning, in order for you to learn it, to be good at it, you want to do this by yourself, right? You're looking to get to at least getting one client, one restaurant per day, right? So 5 restaurants a week before you look at bringing on labor, right? Because at that stage, you've learned it. You understand how the whole process. You understand what to look for in staff, how to train them, and also at that stage you have revenue coming in so that you can pay for your labor, right? So that's typically how we do. We like people to be all in, fully committed. It's 100% time. Anything less than that, it's going to be too difficult, which is true for most businesses. If you want to really start the business from scratch, you got to go all in, right? You got to commit not just 40 hours a week. You're going to have to commit as much time as humanly possible to get the lift. Because that first 12 months of this business or any other business is always the hardest, because you're starting from zero, and you've got to, and you're not going to have a reputation. You're not going to have referrals. So you're going to have to build it. And the first 12 months are a real hustle to get out there. You've got to go prospecting. You've got to find clients. You've got to talk to as many people as possible, telling them about the business, telling them why you could be of value to them, and just to give you an opportunity, right? So the more you can do that, the better. And that leads me to that, in terms of right fit, that is not suitable for everybody, right? You got to think about, hey, do I want to do that? So what we do as a franchise company is that we provide all the support, provide all the training, all the marketing materials, all the sales scripts, right? We provide all of that. We will do your initial sales meetings for you if they're virtual. We're going to dial into all your early jobs to make sure it's being done properly. So we are very hands-on for that first 12 months, because we realize that in the first 12 months, even with the training, right? We do 4 weeks of training. There's still a lot to learn. It's not until you start executing and start servicing clients and you come up against situations and you want to get feedback and help. That's where it's going to go on for quite a while. So it's really important that you understand that this business is B2B, and the sales and prospecting is a critical part. The sales itself is actually one of the easier parts, right? Because that's the end of the process. It's the prospecting part where people sometimes struggle with, because that is getting out there and talking to people and doing cold walk-ins and cold calls and doing sales meetings, and you've got to be able to sell. And as I said, we can help you with that, but I can't do the physical, when you're on the ground in your market, we can do everything virtually, but I can't do I can't walk the streets of your particular market, of your particular city. And so it's really important that that's something that you're aware of getting into a business like this. This is, with any business, there's multiple different parts. The operations is one part, servicing the client, but how do you get on the client? So from a Barmetrix and a marketing perspective, we provide support around telemarketing. We provide all the direct mail support and provide all those materials. We run email campaigns. We run Facebook ads, social media ads. We do a lot of organic social content, LinkedIn, cold walk-ins, right? That's all stuff. That's stuff that you have to do on the ground, right? Where you're going to have to walk in and you're going to have to introduce yourself, right? That's part of the business. So really critical that you understand that going into it. Second thing is the physicality, right? It's an owner-operator model, meaning that you're going to need to do the inventory, right? You're going to use the software and the hardware to conduct and do the counts, right? Counting means, if you look at the back picture here, this is my account manager here in DC, Sean, been with me for a number of years. Now he's doing less counting now because we have part-time assistants. The part-time assistants will go out there and they will count for him. He did this more from a Photoshop more than anything else. So he's mostly doing the client related. He's got a portfolio of about 20 to 25 restaurants that he looks after in the DC metro area. And his responsibility is to make sure that the reporting and the numbers going out to these clients is accurate and correct. And then he's managing the relationship and he's consulting to that client on the challenges that the reports and the data is showing him, right? So he has a team of part-timers around him that are actually going into this venue and they are collecting the data, right? So they're going around with this equipment. You see, he's putting a bottle on a scale. He's got his handheld. So we have part-time guys that will be doing this work. But at the beginning, as I said, you're not going to have that labor, right? You're going to need to do it. And bending down is a big, a lot of people think restaurants and bars are organized and they look like pretty like the back bar here. That's typically not the case. They're usually pretty disorganized in many situations. And so you're pulling product out and you're organizing it. And you have to get it absolutely correct, right? Our data needs to be 100% correct and clean. And so there's a lot of bending down, pulling stuff. We do draft systems. We weigh kegs. We weigh every open bottle of liquor. Every open bottle here all gets weighed and put on a scale, right? But down in these lower storage areas, you got to get down your knees. You got to get dirty and you got to pull out the product, right? That's the only way to do it. And so at the beginning, that's going to be one of your big responsibilities is to service it, learn the service so that you know how to hire down the road. You know that you can teach people to say, hey, I've been there, I've done it, and you're leading them how it should be done properly, right? So you got to do it for at least for that first 12 to 18 months. You are hands-on doing the physical counts. As I said, we're in there in keg rooms. We are lifting kegs, right? And which can be heavy. So there's a physical side of that needs to be taken into account. A lot of bending, so knees, backs, hips, whatever you want to, whatever body part you use to bend and to lift. That's a part of the business until you can hire, right? We do not recommend hiring at the beginning because you need to learn it first yourself. You need to be able to do it before you hire anybody. So that's just on a couple of things that I want to, again, be very clear up front in terms of what the day-to-day business looks like. Sales and prospecting and doing the inventory itself. I want to talk a little bit about the training and support. As I said, we do 4 weeks of training, 1 week virtual, 3 weeks, 3 weeks of virtual training. We have a very comprehensive online training system, and we have 1 week of training then in New Orleans, right? But the reality is when you are finished the training goes on for 6 to 12 months or as long as you need it. We are dialing in, we are checking exactly what's happening with how you're servicing your clients, making sure that the data is correct. So as you need it, it's there, right? And we highly recommend that. Do not try and figure out anything by yourself. Your first thought is to call somebody, right? And to make sure that you're getting it answered correctly and not trying to figure it out yourself when it's already been figured out by many, many other franchisees already. That's also brings me to that we have a very strong network, very helpful network. People, all of our franchisees really want to help and give back to the community. So that's also there from a support perspective, right? But that training, that coaching, we have weekly coaching when you finish training every week, but it's usually multiple calls per week as you need it. But there's a scheduled call once a week, and then and then there are calls as you need them, right? You just call the head office when you're stuck, when you're at a client, you don't know what to say or how to answer a question. Then we're here to help and give you the exact answer, because there is an exact answer for everything. Okay. So that's on the training support. It's ongoing. I expect to be training and be coached ongoingly for as long as you need it. Question here on sales and lead generation. How do you get your first client? It's a great question. So with all sales and marketing, there's no magic bullet. It's all about activity. You got to do a lot of activity. Okay. As I said, we do telemarketing. We do email marketing. We do social media marketing, advertising. But in your particular market, the restaurant and hospitality industry is actually a pretty close-knit industry, right? A big part of the business is connections, referrals, other vendors who are already selling to the bars and restaurants, right? That's the easiest way to get in, is to build relationship with other people who have already sold to your prospects, right? Because they have a relationship. A lot of what we do is built upon trust, right? Our clients give us alarm codes, keys, access to their point of sale system, access to their back office financial system, right? Because we got to pull that data. So there's a lot of trust involved. So they're not just going to let anybody just for the first time they meet you walking off the street and say, yeah, sure, let's get going. Sometimes it does happen, right? But there's a lot of trust involved, which means the more you're involved in the community, the more you're in, when I say the community, the restaurant community, right? You're visiting bars and restaurants, you're eating out of these bars and restaurants. You need to have a passion and an energy that you just love being a client, being a customer of your customers, right? And of your prospects, really critically important. So, so to get your first client, it is just having as many conversations as possible, and and offering the free trial. We offer a free, what we call a no risk free trial, which is where we will come in and we will take care of. We will do 2 weeks of reporting, right? 2 weeks of reporting. Set up the database, load in all our products, do 3 counts, so that we have 2 weeks of separate reporting. We can see any issues from the first week and see if they're trending on the second week, right? Then we present that to the client. And then it's usually the numbers sell the service, right? Because if I can show, if they are the average, which by definition means most of them are the average, they're going to be losing 20 to 25%, right? And when you convert that into dollars and how much they're losing over the course of a year, it's not a difficult sell, because if I say, hey, cost of our services, $10,000 per year, let's say as a round number, and there's a return on investment of $40,000, $50,000 per year, then you're showing, hey, there's a 4 to 5x return on investment here, right? It's not a, you don't need to be a particularly experienced business owner to know that is a good deal, right? They can see how much they're leaving on the table. And so what I would say to somebody is, hey, you're losing 20, 25%. It's cost you somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 per year. Do you want, how do you feel about that? And they may say, hey, not too good. And then you could say, well, do you want our help? And nine times out of 10, they'll say yes, because they can't do it themselves, right? Because if they could, they would have already done it, right? So it's not a difficult sell, but you got to get yourself into that position where you can present that. And that's where the no risk free trial comes in, where I say to somebody, hey, look, I don't know if there's any issues with your business, but why don't we take a look? I'll take all the risk. I'll do all the work. You don't sign anything. You don't pay anything up front. You only pay if you want to continue, right? That's where we pitch it. You only pay if you want to continue. So, but I guarantee you, you're going to get an insight into your business that you've never seen before for no risk. It doesn't interfere with your staff. You don't need to do much work outside of providing me some access and some information, but we will do all the work and then present to you. And then we make a decision, right? If it makes sense for your business or not. The vast, vast majority of people will take you up in that offer if you pitch it the right way. So that's on the sales and prospect. That's how you get your first client. You do as much free work as possible to show people value. Show people value up front, then the rest takes care of itself. Okay. So this video's gone a little bit longer than I wanted to do. It's about 15 minutes. But that's the guts of it. Anything else we'll cover on our next call, right? That's the way this works. I want to give you an overview, give you some feedback on how, and answer as much stuff, and allow you to decide, hey, this does make you, if you decide beforehand that, hey, this is not the type of model or the type of business that would be suitable for me, that's great, right? Because that means it means there's one less franchise option out there for you. And it means I don't have to have a conversation with somebody who's decided that they're never going to be a fit for this business anyway, right? So it's a win-win. So that's the point here, is to give you as much information, have you make the decision, and let you decide if you want to do a deeper call with me next, right? Or one of my staff. Okay. So I hope it was informative. I hope it didn't turn you off completely, and that you're still interested in the conversation. I'd love to talk, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Take care.